The shrill ring of the phone cut through the darkness like a physical thing. James Carter jolted awake, his heart hammering against his ribs. The digital clock on his nightstand glowed an accusatory 3:17 a.m. Only emergency calls came at this hour. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the device. The caller ID displayed Memorial Hospital, and ice formed in his veins. Mr. Carter speaking. Mr. Carter, this is Memorial Hospital. Your daughter Lily has been admitted in serious condition. The words hit him like a physical blow. James was already moving, fumbling for clothes in the dark. What happened? Will she? The doctor will explain everything when you arrive, sir. Please come as quickly as possible. 20 minutes later, James was speeding through snow-covered streets, his Italian leather shoes inappropriate for the fierce winter storm that had descended on the city overnight. Heavy snowflakes pelted the windshield of his Mercedes, visibility reduced to mere feet. The world outside was a swirling white void matching the blank terror in his mind. He gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. How had this happened? He had left the children with Sarah just yesterday morning before flying to Chicago for a meeting. Everything had been fine. His tires slid slightly on the ice as he pulled into the hospital parking lot. James barely remembered to lock the car before running through the automatic doors, snow melting on his expensive wool coat. My daughter, he gasped to the emergency room receptionist. Lily Carter, they just called me. The woman typed quickly. Yes, Mr. Carter, your daughter is in room 304. The elevator is down that hall. James ran through antiseptic corridors, his Italian leather shoes squeaking against the polished floor. A nurse intercepted him, guiding him to a small room where 7-year-old Lily lay motionless on white sheets. Her golden hair spread across the pillow like a halo, but her face was barely recognizable beneath the bruises. An IV line ran into her tiny arm. The steady beep of monitoring equipment was the only sound in the sterile room. Lily, James whispered, dropping to his knees beside the bed. Sweetheart, Daddy is here. Her eyelids fluttered. When she saw him, tears filled her eyes. She tried to speak, but winced with pain. James leaned closer. Daddy, she whispered, her voice so faint he could barely hear it. Please do not let me go back with Sarah. I am so scared. The world around James seemed to freeze. Before he could respond, the door opened, and a grave-looking doctor entered. Mr. Carter, I am Dr. Harrison. Can I speak with you outside? In the hallway, Dr. Harrison kept his voice low. Your daughter has 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and extensive bruising in various stages of healing. This indicates ongoing abuse, not a single incident. That is impossible, James said, his voice hollow. My girlfriend, Sarah, said Lily fell down the stairs yesterday while I was on a business trip. The doctor's eyes hardened. Mr. Carter, I have been treating child abuse cases for 20 years. These injuries are not consistent with a fall. We have already contacted Child Protective Services. He paused. Your son was also brought in with Lily. Noah, James suddenly remembered his 5-month-old son. Is he all right? The baby has concerning bruising as well, particularly finger-shaped marks on his arms. We are keeping him for observation. James felt his legs weaken beneath him. He steadied himself against the wall, ice spreading through his veins. I need to see my son. Dr. Harrison nodded. He is in the nursery. The nurse will take you there after we finish. Mr. Carter, I must ask, have you noticed any changes in your daughter's behavior recently? Any signs something might be wrong? The question pierced James like an arrow. When was the last time he had really looked at his daughter? Really listened to her? Since Elizabeth died, giving birth to Noah 5 months ago, James had buried himself in work, staying late at the office, taking international trips, anything to escape the empty house that no longer felt like home. I travel frequently for work, he admitted. Sarah takes care of the children while I am away. And how long has Sarah been caring for your children? Since shortly after my wife died. She was Elizabeth's friend from college. She offered to help with the baby. Dr. Harrison made a note in his chart. I see. Well, regardless of what happened, your children need you right now. I suggest you prepare yourself. A representative from Child Protective Services will want to speak with you. James nodded numbly and followed a nurse to the nursery. Through the window, he saw his infant son sleeping in a clear hospital bassinet. Even from this distance, he could see the tiny bruises on Noah's arms stark against his pale skin. The image blurred as tears filled James's eyes. How could he have been so blind, so neglectful? Elizabeth had trusted him to protect their children, and he had failed completely. Mr. Carter, James turned to find a small woman with an official-looking badge. I am Laura Wilson from Child Protective Services. We need to discuss your children's situation. James straightened his shoulders. Of course. Can you explain how your daughter received these injuries? I was in Chicago on business. Sarah called to tell me Lily had fallen down the stairs. She said she brought her to the hospital immediately. Laura's expression remained neutral. According to the medical report, many of these injuries occurred over several weeks. Were you aware of any previous incidents? No. James stopped, shame overwhelming him. How many nights had he called home just to say goodnight, not even noticing if Lily seemed different? How many weekends had he spent at the office while Sarah took the children to the park? Mr. Carter, I need to be direct. Your prolonged absences while your children were in Miss Miller's care could be interpreted as neglect. The court takes a dim view of parents who fail to protect their children from abuse. James felt his chest tighten. Are you saying I could lose custody of my children? It is a possibility we have to consider. The priority is ensuring Lily and Noah are safe. She paused, studying him. Where is Miss Miller now? I called her from the car. She should be on her way. As if summoned by his words, Sarah Miller appeared in the doorway. At 35, she was strikingly beautiful with dark hair and wide blue eyes that now filled with tears as she rushed toward them. James, I got here as fast as I could. How are the children? Can I see Lily? Ms. Miller, I am Laura Wilson from Child Protective Services. Laura interjected before James could respond. I would like to speak with you privately about the incident. Sarah's eyes widened. Of course, anything to help poor Lily. She squeezed James's arm. We will get through this together. As they walked away, James felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter storm outside. There was something off about Sarah's reaction, something performative that he had never noticed before. He returned to Lily's room, needing to be near his daughter. As he entered, he found an elderly woman sitting beside the bed, gently stroking Lily's hair. Martha Eleanor Davis had been the Carter family housekeeper for over 20 years, since before Lily was born. She had been Elizabeth's confidant and Lily's surrogate grandmother. Eleanor looked up, her weathered face lined with concern. Mr. Carter, I came as soon as I heard. Thank you for being here, Eleanor. James glanced around. Where is Sarah? She is talking with someone from social services. Eleanor's voice was carefully neutral, but something in her expression made James pause. Eleanor, I need to ask you something important. Have you noticed anything strange about Sarah's behavior with the children when I am not home? The housekeeper's hands twisted in her lap. She glanced at Lily, who had finally fallen asleep under the influence of pain medication. Mr. Carter, I have wanted to speak to you for some time, but she trailed off, looking conflicted. Please, Eleanor, I need to know the truth. Eleanor took a deep breath. She changes when you are not around. She is different with the children, this strict in a way that goes beyond normal discipline. She locks them in their rooms for hours. The elderly woman lowered her voice. Lily has had many accidents that I never witnessed. Why did you not tell me? James demanded, anger flaring. She threatened me. Eleanor admitted, her voice barely audible. Said she would tell you I was stealing if I said anything against her. That I would lose my mo and my reputation. Who would believe an old housekeeper over a charming young woman like her? James felt sick. What else have you noticed? She is obsessed with your finances. I have seen her going through your office when you are away, and the way she speaks to Lily when you are not listening. Eleanor shuddered. It frightens me. James was about to respond when Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with effort. Daddy, I am here, sweetheart. He took her small hand gently. Eleanor stood. I will get some coffee and give you two some time alone. After she left, Lily's eyes darted to the door, then back to her father. Is Sarah gone? Yes, for now. Lily seemed to relax slightly. She hurts Noah too, Daddy. When he cries, she squeezes his arms until he stops. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I try to keep him quiet so she will not hurt him. I promised Mommy I would take care of him. Each word was like a knife in James's heart. What kind of father was he that his own daughter believed such lies? that she had suffered in silence rather than come to him. "Listen to me," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "I love you and Noah more than anything in this world. I believe you and I promise Sarah will never hurt either of you again." He noticed a teddy bear tucked beside Lily on the bed, worn from years of love, one of its button eyes slightly loose. Mr. Cuddles, the last gift Elizabeth had given Lily before she died. "You brought Mr. Cuddles," he said softly. Lily clutched the bear tighter. "He keeps me safe when you are not there." The simple statement was another blow to James's heart. His 7-year-old daughter had been protecting herself and her infant brother because he had not been there to do it. A soft knock at the door preceded Sarah's return. Her face was a perfect mask of concern as she approached Lily's bed. "Oh, Lily, my poor sweet girl," she said, reaching out to stroke the child's hair. James did not miss how Lily flinched away from Sarah's touch, turning her face toward him instead. Her small fingers clutched Mr. Cuddles so tightly her knuckles turned white. "The doctor says you can go home tomorrow," Sarah continued, seeming not to notice Lily's reaction. "I will make your favorite pancakes, the ones with chocolate chips. Would you like that?" Lily said nothing, her eyes wide with fear. "She needs to rest now," James said firmly. "Let us talk outside." In the corridor, Sarah turned to him, her face a picture of distress. "James, I am so sorry about all this. I only left her alone for 2 minutes to check on Noah. When I heard the crash," her voice broke, "I should have watched her more carefully." James watched her performance with growing unease. Had Sarah always been this theatrical? Or was he only noticing now because he was looking for it? "The doctor says Lily's injuries could not have been caused by a fall," he said carefully, watching her reaction. A flash of something crossed Sarah's face before it settled back into concerned innocence. "What? That is ridiculous. I saw her tumble down those stairs myself. What else could have happened? You tell me, Sarah. What are you suggesting?" Her voice took on a dangerous edge. "That I hurt Lily. Your daughter means the world to me, James. How can you even think such a thing?" "I do not know what to think anymore. All I know is my daughter is terrified of you, and both my children have unexplained injuries." Sarah stepped closer, placing her hand on his arm. "James, we are all under tremendous stress right now. This is just a misunderstanding. Children fall. They get hurt. It happens in the best of families." James removed her hand. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight." "What?" "I am taking the children home when they are released tomorrow. I think it would be best if you were not there." Sarah's face hardened for a moment before smoothing into hurt confusion. "You cannot possibly believe I would hurt the children. After everything I have done for this family, I gave up my career to help you, James. I put my life on hold when Elizabeth died because you could not cope alone." The mention of Elizabeth sent a surge of anger through James, but he controlled himself. "This is not a discussion. I am asking you to leave until we sort this out." "And where am I supposed to go in the middle of a snowstorm?" "I have booked you a room at the plaza. A car is waiting outside to take you there." Sarah stared at him, calculation visible in her eyes. Finally, she nodded stiffly. "Fine, if that is what you need right now. But we will talk about this tomorrow when you have calmed down." She turned and walked away, her posture rigid with what appeared to be righteous indignation. James watched her go, wondering how he could have been so blind for so long. He returned to Lily's room, finding his daughter awake and watching the door anxiously. "She is gone, sweetheart. She will not be coming back to the house." Relief washed over Lily's face. "Promise." "I promise, Bertha." James settled into the chair beside her bed, prepared to stay all night. After Lily fell asleep, he pulled out his phone and dialed his attorney, Jonathan Klein. "John, I need your help," James said quietly, not wanting to wake Lily. "My children are in danger, and I could lose custody of them." 2 days later, James brought Lily and Noah home from the hospital. The winter storm had intensified, transforming the world outside into a frozen landscape. Snow piled in drifts against the windows, and the wind howled around the corners of the house like a living thing. Inside, James had transformed the guest bedroom adjacent to his own into a temporary nursery for both children. He would not let them out of his sight, not even to sleep. Eleanor prepared a light dinner, which they ate in Lily's new room, the little girl still weak from her injuries, but brightening somewhat now that she was home and away from Sarah. Daddy, can I show Noah the snow? Lily asked after dinner, looking toward the window where fat flakes continued to fall. It is too cold to go outside, sweetheart, James replied, but we can look at it from the window. He carried Noah to the large bay window in the sitting room, Lily following carefully, mindful of her bandaged ribs. The three of them watched the snow fall in the glow of the streetlights, creating a momentary bubble of peace. Mommy loves snow, Lily said softly. She said every snowflake was special, just like people. James swallowed past the lump in his throat. She was right. Your mother was very wise. I remember everything she told me, Lily continued. She made me promise to take care of Noah if anything happened to her. Her small face grew serious. I try, Daddy. I sing to him when he cries so Sarah will not get angry. I feed him his bottle when she forgets. James tightened his arm around his daughter, careful not to hurt her injured ribs. A 7-year-old child should not bear such responsibility, such fear. That is my job, Lily, not yours. You are an amazing big sister, but looking after Noah is my responsibility. He kissed the top of her head. I am so sorry I have not been here for you both. Lily leaned against him, saying nothing but accepting his apology in the simple way of children. After putting the children to bed with Noah's crib positioned in where James could see it from Lily's bedside, he sat in the chair beside her, bed laptop open as he reviewed the security camera footage that Jonathan had helped him install that afternoon. Every room in the house now had hidden cameras, and a security team was on standby at Jonathan's recommendation. James was leaving nothing to chance. The house was silent, except for the occasional creak as the winter wind buffeted the windows. From his position, James could see both sleeping children, their faces peaceful in repose. He felt a fierce protectiveness surge through him, along with renewed shame at how he had failed them. His phone vibrated with a text from Jonathan. Preliminary investigation on Sarah Miller shows irregularities. Call me. James stepped into the hallway, not wanting to risk waking the children. What did you find? He asked when Jonathan answered. My investigator ran a deep background check on Sarah Miller. James, she does not exist, at least not before 5 years ago. No school records, no employment history, nothing before she supposedly met Elizabeth in college. James felt the blood drain from his face. What are you saying? I am saying the woman living in your home created that identity. Before that, she appears to have been someone named Sophia Mitchell, with quite a colorful history involving fraud allegations and suspicious deaths of wealthy individuals she was close to. My God, James whispered. She has been lying from the beginning. There is more, Jonathan continued. We found multiple phone records between Sarah, or Sophia, whatever her name is, and your brother Daniel. Daniel, what does he have to do with this? That is what we are trying to determine, but they have been in regular contact for at least 3 years, predating Elizabeth's death. The revelation struck James like a physical blow. Daniel, his only living relative, the brother he had supported through rehab, paid gambling debts for given a job to when no one else would hire him. This makes no sense, John. Why would Daniel be involved with Sarah? I do not know yet, but according to your will, if anything happens to you and your children, Daniel inherits everything. James clutched the phone so tightly his fingers ached. The implications were too horrible to contemplate. I need to see everything you have on both of them. James said, his voice hardening with resolve. And John, I want a new will drawn up immediately. Already on it. The papers will be ready for your signature tomorrow. In the meantime, do not confront either of them. We need more evidence. After hanging up, James returned to the children's room, his mind racing. He had never trusted Daniel with the business, knowing his brother's gambling problems and general unreliability. But this level of betrayal was incomprehensible. And Sarah, or Sophia, whoever she truly was, had infiltrated his life so completely. Had it all been a lie from the beginning? The friendship with Elizabeth, the support after her death, the apparent love for his children. A soft sound drew his attention to Lily's bed. His daughter was stirring restlessly, caught in some dream or memory. James moved to her side, gently stroking her hair until she settled. No one will hurt you again, he whispered. I swear it. The next morning, after ensuring the children were safely with Eleanor, under the watchful eye of security personnel, James retreated to his home office. The winter sunlight streamed through the windows, reflecting off the snow outside and filling the room with a cold, clear light. He needed to find evidence, something concrete that would help him understand the extent of Sarah's deception and Daniel's involvement. Starting with his computer, James checked his browser history and found searches he had never conducted, all focusing on his finances, properties, and investment portfolio. His email had also been accessed with particular attention paid to correspondence with his financial advisors. James changed all his passwords, immediately securing his accounts against further intrusion. Next, he systematically searched the house, starting with Sarah's belongings. In her dresser, beneath layers of carefully folded lingerie, he found a burner phone. The call log showed frequent communications with Daniel, along with another number James did not recognize. He was about to replace the phone when it vibrated in his hand. A text message appeared on the screen. "Time running out. Carter still suspicious. We need to accelerate the plan." James felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly photographed the message and returned the phone to its hiding place. Moving to Sarah's closet, he found a locked metal box tucked behind her shoes. Without the key, he could not open it, but he noted its location for future investigation. As he turned to leave her room, something caught his eye. On Sarah's nightstand sat a silver pocket watch with a delicate face. James recognized it immediately. It had belonged to Elizabeth, a family heirloom passed down from her grandmother. James distinctly remembered placing it in Elizabeth's jewelry box after her funeral. How had Sarah gotten it? He picked up the watch, turning it over in his hand. The inscription on the back read, "To Elizabeth, my North Star. Love always, James." The front door chimed, announcing a visitor. James quickly replaced the watch and went downstairs, his mind racing with new questions. Jonathan Klein stood on the porch, briefcase in hand, snow-dusting his shoulders and hair. "I brought everything we have so far," Jonathan said as James ushered him inside. "You need to see this immediately." In James's office, Jonathan laid out documents across the desk. "First, we confirmed Sarah Miller is actually Sophia Mitchell. She has used at least 3 other identities in the past decade." Jonathan pointed to photographs of women who bore striking resemblances to Sarah, though with different hair colors and styles. Elizabeth Palmer in Seattle, Jennifer White in Boston, and Melissa Green in San Francisco. Each identity was used to infiltrate wealthy families experiencing loss or illness. "And what happened to these families?" James asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. In each case, a wealthy family member died under circumstances initially deemed natural but later questioned. By then, the woman had disappeared with significant assets. Jonathan paused. "There is more. We found financial records linking Sophia to 3 other women, all with similar physical characteristics. They appear to be sisters who work together." "A team of con artists," James said, feeling physically ill. "More like a family business. Based on the DNA records we found, they are indeed sisters." James stared at the evidence spread before him, the full scope of the deception becoming clear. "And Daniel, what is his role in all this?" Jonathan pushed forward another file. "We traced wire transfers from Daniel to Sophia starting 3 years ago. He was already deeply in debt at that time, primarily from gambling losses." "She found him at his lowest point," James said, understanding dawning. "Vulnerable, desperate for money, envious of his successful older brother." "Exactly. From what we can piece together, their original plan seems to have involved Sophia marrying you after Elizabeth's death. When that did not happen quickly enough, they developed an alternate strategy involving your children." James's hands clenched into fists. Elizabeth's death. Was that part of their plan too? Jonathan hesitated, then pushed forward one final document. "We found this in Sarah's email account. It was a medical research document about digitalis, a heart medication that in high doses could cause cardiac arrest, particularly in individuals with certain vulnerabilities, like women who had recently given birth. Elizabeth died of heart failure after Noah was born." James whispered, horror washing over him. "I have already contacted a forensic pathologist who specializes in reviewing suspicious deaths," Jonathan said. "If there is anything to find, he will find it." A knock at the door interrupted them. Eleanor stood there, her face pale. "Mr. Carter, Lily is asking for you. She seems quite upset." James found Lily in the playroom, sitting on the floor beside Noah's baby swing. The infant was sleeping peacefully, but Lily's face was troubled, her blue eyes wide with fear. "What is it, sweetheart?" James asked, kneeling beside her. "I had a bad memory," she said, her voice trembling. "About Sarah and Mommy." James felt his heart rate increase. "What kind of memory?" "Before Noah was born, when Mommy was really big in her tummy, Sarah came to help." Lily looked down at her hands. One day I saw her put something in Mommy's tea when no one was looking. Mommy got sick after that. James struggled to keep his expression neutral, despite the rage building inside him. What happened after Mommy drank the tea? She said her heart felt funny. She was really tired and had to lie down. Sarah called the doctor. Lily looked up at him, tears filling her eyes. Was that why Mommy died, Daddy? Because of what Sarah put in her tea? James gathered his daughter into his arms, mindful of her injuries. I do not know, sweetheart, but I promise you we are going to find out the truth. Sarah talks on the phone to someone when you are not home, Lily continued. She calls him Danny. They talk about money and accidents. Danny, Daniel. James's suspicions were confirmed. What kind of accidents, Lily? Bad ones. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. She said you would have an accident like Mommy did. James held his daughter close, his mind racing. The custody hearing was just 48 hours away. 48 hours in which Sarah and Daniel could plan their next move. Lily, I need you to be very brave and tell me everything Sarah said about these accidents. Can you do that? Lily nodded against his chest. She told Danny that first the children would have accidents, then you would be so sad you would have one too. She said it would look like you hurt us and then yourself because you were sad about Mommy. James fought to control the rage that threatened to consume him. These people had terrorized his daughter using her grief and fear as weapons. Listen to me, Lily. Nothing is going to happen to you or Noah or me. I promise. We are going to be safe. And Sarah is never going to hurt any of us again. Cross your heart, Lily asked, looking up with eyes too old for her 7 years. Cross my heart, James made the childhood gesture. Now, do you think you can be my special helper today? I need someone very brave to keep an eye on Noah while I talk to Mr. Jonathan about some grown-up things. Lily nodded solemnly. I can do that. Noah likes when I sing to him. That is perfect, James kissed the top of her head. Why do not you go check if he is awake? Eleanor will stay with you both. When Lily had moved back to her brother, James returned to his office, his resolve hardened into steel. Jonathan looked up from his phone as James entered. I just got word from the security team. Sarah is on her way here despite your instructions to stay away. Good, James said coldly. Let her come. I want to see her face when she realizes her game is over. Jonathan looked concerned. James, we do not have enough evidence yet for an arrest. This confrontation could be dangerous. My children have already been in danger for months without my knowledge. I will not hide from this woman any longer. James moved to his desk, pulling open the bottom drawer. I had security cameras installed yesterday. I want her confession on record. He activated the system, ensuring every room in the house was now being monitored and recorded. She will never admit anything, Jonathan warned. She might if she thinks I am still in the dark. James's expression was grim. And if not, at least we will have evidence of her reaction when I confront her with what we know. The doorbell rang, its cheerful tone at odds with the tension filling the house. Stay here, James told Jonathan. Let me handle this first. As he descended the stairs, James caught sight of himself in the hallway mirror. The man who stared back at him was not the distracted, grief-stricken CEO who had buried himself in work to escape his pain. This man's eyes burned with purpose, his jaw set with determination. For the first time since Elizabeth died, James felt fully present, fully alive. His children needed him, and he would not fail them again. He opened the front door to find Sarah standing on the porch, snowflakes dusting her dark hair, her expression a perfect mask of concern. James, she said, stepping forward as if to embrace him, I have been so worried about you and the children. This separation is unnecessary. James stepped back, not allowing her to touch him. Come in, Sarah. We need to talk. She followed him into the living room, removing her coat and gloves with practiced elegance. James, I understand you are upset. Finding out about Lily's injuries was traumatic for all of us. But pushing me away is not the answer. Where did you get Elizabeth's watch? James asked abruptly. Sarah blinked, momentarily thrown by the unexpected question. What watch? The silver pocket watch on your nightstand. It belonged to Elizabeth. I put it in her jewelry box after she died. How did it end up in your possession? A flicker of uncertainty crossed Sarah's face before she composed herself. Oh, that. Elizabeth gave it to me before Noah was born. She wanted me to have something to remember her by in case. She trailed off delicately. In case she died in childbirth, James supplied, watching her closely. Yes, she had a premonition, I think. She knew there might be complications. That is interesting, James said, his voice deceptively calm, because Elizabeth specifically told me she wanted that watch to go to Lily when she was older. It was a family heirloom passed down through generations of women in her family. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Perhaps I misunderstood. It was an emotional time. No, I do not think you misunderstood anything, Sophia. The name hung in the air between them. Sarah's eyes widened fractionally, then narrowed. Who is Sophia? You are. Or should I say you were before you became Sarah Miller. Before that, you were Elizabeth Palmer, Jennifer White, and Melissa Green. All pretense of warmth vanished from Sarah's face, replaced by a cold calculation. I do not know what you think you have discovered, James, but you are making a serious mistake. The mistake was mine, James acknowledged. I invited a predator into my home, gave her access to my children, my finances, and my life. I was blind to what was happening right in front of me. Sarah took a step toward him, her voice hardening. Be very careful what you are implying, James. These are serious accusations. They are not accusations, they are facts. I know about the burner phone, the communications with my brother, the plans you have been making. I know about the digitalis you used on Elizabeth. At the mention of the drug, something dangerous flickered in Sarah's eyes. She glanced toward the stairs, clearly thinking about the children. Where are Lily and Noah? She asked, her voice dangerously soft. Safe from you, James replied, moving to block her view of the staircase. Just as they will remain. Sarah laughed, a cold sound that bore no resemblance to the warm laughter James had grown accustomed to. Safe, you have no idea what I am capable of, James. No idea at all. Actually, I think I do. You killed my wife, abused my children, and planned to kill me for my money. Does that about cover it, or have I missed something? Sarah's posture shifted subtly, reminding James of a predator preparing to strike. You cannot prove any of that. It would be your word against mine, and I have been the one caring for those children every day while you buried yourself in work. Her smile was chilling. Who do you think the court will believe, the absent father or the devoted caregiver? Perhaps they will believe the evidence, James suggested. The financial records linking you to my brother, the multiple identities, the pattern of deaths that follow you from city to city. Uncertainty flickered across Sarah's face. You are bluffing. Am I? The police are already investigating your past identities. They have quite an interest in what happened to Harold Winfield in Seattle, Gregory Montgomery in Boston, and Philip Jang in San Francisco. Sarah's composure cracked, genuine alarm replacing her cold confidence. This is not over, James, she hissed. You have no idea who you are dealing with. I have connections you cannot imagine. Like my brother, Sarah's eyes widened slightly, confirming his suspicion. Daniel has already been interviewed by my attorneys, James lied smoothly. He is quite eager to make a deal to save himself. This was clearly news to Sarah, whose face paled noticeably. You are lying. Am I? Perhaps you should call him and find out for yourself. Oh, wait, you cannot. Your burner phone is being monitored by the police. It was another bluff, but Sarah had no way of knowing that. She glanced toward the door, clearly calculating her options. I suggest you leave now, Sarah, or whatever your real name is. A restraining order has been filed. You are not to come near me or my children when. Any attempt to do so will result in your immediate arrest. Sarah stared at him for a long moment, hatred radiating from her in almost palpable waves. This is not over, James, she said finally, her voice low and dangerous. Not by a long shot. It is for you, James replied steadily. Your belongings will be sent to the hotel. Do not come back here. Sarah retrieved her coat and gloves, her movements controlled despite her obvious fury. You will regret this, she promised as she moved toward the door. You have no idea what you have started. James watched her go, maintaining his composure until the door closed behind her. Only then did he allow himself to lean against the wall, his heart pounding in his chest. Jonathan emerged from the office, his expression grave. We got it all on camera, he confirmed. Her threats, her reaction to the evidence. It is not a confession, but it strengthens our case. Will it be enough for the restraining order? Absolutely. But James, she is dangerous, perhaps more than we realized. You and the children need to relocate immediately, somewhere she cannot find you. James nodded, the reality of their situation settling heavily on his shoulders. The woman he had trusted with his children was a calculating killer who would not give up easily. And somewhere out there, his own brother was part of the plot against him. I will take the children to a hotel tonight, James decided. Somewhere with good security. I will arrange it, Jonathan promised. In the meantime, do not let them out of your sight. James climbed the stairs to the playroom, his mind racing with plans and precautions. He found Lily sitting beside Noah's playmat, singing softly to her brother, who gazed up at her with adoring eyes. The sight stopped James in his tracks. Despite everything she had endured, his daughter still found the strength to care for her brother, to protect him, as she had promised her mother. Lily looked up as he entered, immediately reading his expression. She was here, was not she? Sarah came back. Yes, but she is gone now, James assured her, sitting beside his children. And she will not be coming back. Ever? Lily asked hopefully. Ever, James confirmed. Lily studied his face, seeming to weigh his words carefully. Finally, she nodded, accepting his promise with the simple trust of a child who has decided to believe in her parent again. I told Noah we would be okay, she said, stroking her brother's cheek with gentle fingers. I told him Daddy would keep us safe now. And I will, James vowed, gathering both his children close. No matter what happens, I will never let anyone hurt you again. Outside, the winter storm intensified, snow swirling against the windows like a white curtain closing around the house. But inside, in the circle of his arms, James's children were safe at least for now. 20 minutes later, they pulled off the main road onto a Forest Service path about a mile from the cabin coordinates. Several unmarked police vehicles were already stationed there, their lights off to maintain stealth in the darkness. The snowfall had intensified, creating a thick white curtain that both hindered visibility and muffled sound, an advantage for their approach, but a challenge for coordination. One of the officers approached with a laptop. We've accessed the feed from the teddy bear camera, he reported. It's active, but the signal is weak due to the remote location and weather conditions. We're only getting intermittent footage. James peered at the screen, his heart racing. The image was grainy and kept freezing, but he could make out a rustic cabin interior. Lily sat on a sofa, Eleanor beside her. The elderly woman had a bruise on her cheek, but appeared otherwise unharmed. Lily was clutching Mr. Cuddles to her chest, the bear's hidden camera capturing the room at an odd angle. Two women moved in and out of frame. One was unmistakably Sarah, her blonde wig discarded to reveal her natural dark hair. The other looked remarkably similar. The same facial structure, similar height, but with subtle differences that marked her as a distinct person. The sister, presumably. They're both armed, Rodriguez noted, pointing to the handguns visible in their waistbands. That complicates things significantly. The audio crackled to life, distorted but intelligible. Should have been here by now, Sarah was saying, pacing across the wooden floorboards. Maybe he called the police, the other woman suggested, standing by the window and peering out into the storm. He won't risk his precious daughter, Sarah replied confidently. And if he does, she glanced at Lily with a chilling smile. We have other options. James felt rage burning in his chest. I need to get in there now. Rodriguez handed him a small device. This goes in your shoe. 3 quick taps, and we move in. But James, he looked the father in the eye. Try to get them separated. 2 armed suspects makes this exponentially more dangerous. James secured Noah in a carrier on his chest, zipping his coat over both of them, so only the baby's face was visible, protected from the bitter cold. If I'm not out with both Lily and Eleanor in 30 minutes, come in regardless. Don't wait for the signal. Jonathan gripped his shoulder. Be careful. They're desperate now, which makes them unpredictable. The short drive to the cabin felt like crossing into another world. The narrow dirt road wound through dense forest, the trees heavy with snow, creating a tunnel of white through which James navigated slowly. The headlights of his borrowed SUV carved a path through the darkness until finally a small clearing appeared. A rustic cabin stood alone, smoke rising from its chimney, warm light spilling from frost-covered windows. James parked his car and took a deep breath, gently touching Noah's head before approaching the door. The baby had miraculously remained asleep throughout the journey, his tiny face peaceful, despite the danger surrounding them. Before James could knock, the door swung open. Sarah stood there, her natural dark hair pulled back severely from her face. She wore practical clothes now, jeans and a black sweater, and her eyes were cold and calculating, nothing like the warm gaze of the woman who had lived in his home for months. "Right on time," she said, stepping aside. "Always the reliable businessman." As James entered, he saw Lily on the sofa, her eyes lighting up at the sight of him. Eleanor sat beside her, back straight, despite the bruise darkening on her cheek. "Daddy!" Lily cried, starting to rise. "Stay there, brat!" Sarah snapped her hand, moving to the gun in her waistband. "Family reunion comes later." The second woman emerged from what appeared to be a back bedroom. Up close, the resemblance to Sarah was even more striking, though this woman was slightly taller and thinner. "This is my sister Rebecca," Sarah said with a cold smile. "You've never met, but she's been watching your family for years. She was the one who first suggested Elizabeth as a target." James fought to keep his expression neutral, despite the surge of rage those words provoked. "I'm here, Sarah, just like you asked. Now let Eleanor and Lily go." Sarah laughed, the sound brittle in the quiet cabin. "You're not in a position to make demands, James. Put the baby in the playpen over there and step back." James complied, gently laying Noah in the portable playpen set up in the corner. The baby immediately began to fuss, reaching for his father. "Now," Sarah said, "let's discuss our future arrangements." "There are no arrangements to discuss," James replied coldly. "It's over, Sarah. The police know everything about Catherine, about your network of sisters, about Daniel's involvement. You can't disappear this time." "Can't we?" She exchanged glances with Rebecca. "We have new identities prepared, James. New documents, new lives for our family." "We are not a family." "We could have been." Something like genuine regret flickered across Sarah's face. "If you had just fallen for me like you were supposed to, none of this would have been necessary. Elizabeth was never right for you, too soft, too conventional. I could have given you so much more." "Elizabeth was my wife," James said, voice steady despite his fury. "The mother of my children, the love of my life. You were never going to replace her." Sarah's expression hardened. "Well, it's too late for regrets now. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign these papers." She gestured to documents spread on a table. "Transferring guardianship of the children to me in the event of your death. Then you're going to write a suicide note, confessing to abusing Lily and expressing your remorse." "And then what?" James asked, already knowing the answer. "Then I disappear with your children and you join your beloved Elizabeth." Sarah's tone was matter-of-fact, as if discussing a business transaction rather than murder. "The children will be well cared for," she added, as if offering a consolation. "I've always wanted children. Lily will adjust eventually and Noah won't even remember you." James glanced at Lily, whose blue eyes were wide with fear, but also a startling determination. She clutched Mr. Cuddles tighter to her chest, and James knew the bear's camera was still transmitting to the police outside. She gave him the smallest of nods, and James understood his daughter was far braver than he had ever imagined. "Before I sign anything," James said carefully, "I want to speak with Lily alone." "Not a chance," Sarah scoffed. "Just for a minute. A father's goodbye. Surely you can grant me that much." Sarah exchanged glances with Rebecca, then nodded reluctantly. "1 minute, right here where we can see you. No whispering." James moved to the sofa, kneeling before Lily. He took her small hands in his eyes searching her face. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Lily nodded. "I'm scared, Daddy, but I'm being brave. Mr. Cuddles is helping me." James understood immediately. "You're the bravest person I know, Lily." He squeezed her hands. "I need you to listen carefully. When I say the word now, I want you to drop to the floor and pull Eleanor down with you. Can you do that?" Lily's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded again. "Yes, Daddy." "That's my girl." James pressed a kiss to her forehead before standing. "Touching," Sarah said sarcastically. "Now sign the papers, James. My patience is wearing thin." James moved to the table, picking up the pen Sarah had left beside the documents. He scanned the pages, quickly legal forms for guardianship transfer, a typed suicide note awaiting his signature. "You really thought of everything," he said, stalling for time as he calculated the distance between the sisters and their weapons. "We always do." Sarah stepped closer, watching as he poised the pen over the signature line. "It's what makes us so good at this." "Just one question," James said, looking up at her. "Why Elizabeth? Why not just pursue me directly? Why kill an innocent woman? Something like genuine emotion crossed Sarah's face. Because she had everything I ever wanted. The perfect husband, the beautiful home, the adoring daughter. It should have been mine. You never even knew me before Elizabeth died, James said, bewildered. How could you have wanted what was hers? Sarah's smile was chilling. Oh, James, I've known who you were for years, ever since Daniel started working for your company. He used to talk about his successful brother, the perfect life you had. I decided then that it should be mine instead. The pieces clicked into place. Daniel introduced you to Elizabeth. You became her friend, deliberately planning to take her place all along. Smart man, Sarah nodded appreciatively. Though it took you long enough to figure it out. Now sign the papers. We're done talking. As James pretended to read the documents, he noticed a movement in the hallway behind Sarah. A figure appeared briefly in the shadows, then disappeared again. James couldn't be sure, but it looked like Daniel, haggard and uncertain. James looked down at the document, then at Noah in the playpen at Eleanor, watching him with steady eyes, and finally at Lily, his brave little girl, still clutching Mr. Cuddles. Now, he shouted, lunging towards Sarah. Lily reacted instantly, pulling Eleanor to the floor as James tackled Sarah. The gun discharged with a deafening report, the bullet splintering wood somewhere above their heads. James grappled with Sarah, his greater strength, giving him the advantage despite her vicious resistance. Rebecca moved to aim her weapon at James, but suddenly Daniel appeared behind her, grabbing her arm and forcing it upward. The gun fired into the ceiling as they struggled. James shouted to Lily and Eleanor. Get outside! Eleanor pulled Lily toward the door as James pinned Sarah to the floor, knocking the gun from her grasp. It skittered across the hardwood, stopping near the wall. Sarah's face contorted with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed, clawing at his face. I'll never stop coming for what's mine. They were never yours, James growled, struggling to restrain her wrists. And you'll never get near my children again. In the corner of the room, Daniel and Rebecca continued to fight for control of the second gun. Rebecca was surprisingly strong for her size, and Daniel was clearly struggling. The gun discharged again, and Daniel cried out, blood blooming on his shoulder. He staggered backward, but managed to stay on his feet. Danny, James called out, still restraining a thrashing Sarah. I'm okay, Daniel gasped. Jimmy, I didn't know what they were planning for the kids. I swear I never wanted them hurt. Liar, Rebecca spat, aiming the gun at Daniel. You knew everything. You introduced us to Elizabeth. You helped plan her murder. I thought it was about the money, Daniel said, voice breaking. I didn't know about Elizabeth until it was too late. And the children, I never agreed to harm the children. Sarah laughed bitterly beneath James. Poor Danny, always the weak link, always the disappointment. James heard sirens approaching. The police had seen enough through Mr. Cuddles' camera. He needed to keep the sisters talking until help arrived. How many others? He demanded. How many families have you destroyed? Sarah's smile was cold with pride. We're artists, James. We create new lives from the ashes of the old. The Winfields in Seattle, the Montgomerys in Boston, the Jangs in San Francisco. We bring justice to those who don't deserve their wealth and privilege. Justice, James couldn't hide his disgust. You're nothing but common murderers. We're survivors, Sarah snarled. While you grew up with everything, we grew up with nothing. 4 sisters in the foster system passed around like unwanted baggage. We made ourselves into the perfect chameleons, and we take what should have been ours all along. The cabin door burst open. Detective Rodriguez and his team rushed in and weapons drawn. Police freeze. James rolled away from Sarah, raising his hands. She's unarmed now. The gun's by the wall. Officers secured Sarah as Rodriguez moved to where Rebecca still held her weapon, now pointed at Daniel. Drop the gun, Rodriguez ordered. It's over. Rebecca's eyes darted around the room, calculating, even now. For a terrible moment, James thought she might start shooting. Then slowly she lowered the weapon. This isn't over, she said calmly. This is merely an intermission. Family takes care of family. As officers led the sisters away in handcuffs, paramedics entered to tend to Daniel's wound. James rushed to Noah, gathering the baby in his arms. The infant had remarkably slept through most of the chaos, only now beginning to stir. Mr. Carter, an officer approached. Your daughter and Mrs. Davis are safe in the police car. James hurried outside, Noah clutched to his chest. Lily sat in the back of a police cruiser, still holding Mr. Cuddles tightly. When she saw her, I remember her face lit up with pure joy. "Daddy!" she cried, scrambling out to run into his arms. "You did it! You beat the bad ladies!" James knelt, balancing Noah in one arm while embracing Lily with the other. "We did it together, Lily. You and Mr. Cuddles were the real heroes today." Lily looked down at her teddy bear. "He helped us, didn't he?" "Just like I knew he would." "Yes, sweetheart. Your secret camera bear helped the police see what was happening inside." Eleanor approached, looking shaken but dignified, despite the bruise on her cheek. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry. That woman had a hotel ID. I should have been more careful." "This isn't your fault, Eleanor," James said firmly, putting an arm around her shoulders. "They had been planning this for years. I'm just thankful you're both safe." As the sisters were placed in separate police vehicles, Sarah caught James's eye through the window. She mouthed something that sent a chill down his spine. "Not over." Daniel was being loaded into an ambulance, his shoulder bandaged. James approached Lily, still clinging to his side. "Jimmy, Daniel said weakly, "I know you won't believe me, but I didn't know they were going to hurt the kids. I thought it was just about the money." James studied his brother's face, searching for truth. "Why, Danny? Why did you do this to us?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I was drowning in debt. Sarah found me at my lowest point, made me feel special, needed. By the time I realized what she really was, I was in too deep." He looked away in shame. "I deserve whatever happens next." "Uncle Danny helped at the end," Lily said unexpectedly. "He stopped the other bad lady from shooting you, Daddy." Daniel looked at his niece in surprise, then back at James. "I know I can't ever make this right, but I had to try to do one good thing at least." James felt nothing but emptiness where his anger had been. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Danny, but Lily's right. You did help us today. That's something." As Daniel was loaded into the ambulance, Detective Rodriguez approached James. "We found evidence of an extensive criminal network in Sarah's possession. 4 sisters operating across 5 states for over a decade. This is much bigger than we thought." "Will they go away for good?" James asked, thinking of Sarah's ominous parting message. "With the evidence we have now, plus what was already gathered about Elizabeth's death, they're looking at multiple life sentences." Rodriguez hesitated. "But James, there's something else you should know. We found communication that's suggesting they have other accomplices we haven't identified yet." James felt a chill despite the warm blanket a paramedic had draped over his shoulders. "What kind of accomplices?" "People they've groomed over the years. People who might still be loyal to them." Rodriguez's expression was grave. "I strongly recommend you and your family relocate, at least temporarily." That night, in a different hotel under police protection, James sat with Jonathan Klein reviewing their options. Lily and Noah were asleep in the bedroom, with Eleanor keeping watch over them. "The DA is moving quickly," Jonathan reported. "Sarah and Rebecca Mitchell are being held without bail, pending multiple charges: kidnapping, attempted murder, child abuse. And when the exhumation results come back for Elizabeth—" "Will it ever be truly over?" James asked quietly. "Will my children ever be safe from these people?" Jonathan hesitated. "The sisters will likely spend the rest of their lives in prison, but their network that's harder to dismantle. We should consider witness protection." James shook his head. "I won't have my children grow up looking over their shoulders, changing their names, losing their identity. There has to be another way." "Then we create our own security. New home, new security systems, carefully vetted staff." Jonathan's expression softened. "James, you've already proven you'll do anything to protect your family. That's what matters most." 6 months later, James stood in the garden of their new home, in a different state, watching Lily and Noah playing under the watchful eye of their security team, former military personnel, who had become like extended family. The house was smaller than their previous mansion, but filled with warmth and light. Eleanor had her own suite on the ground floor and had taken to baking cookies with Lily every Saturday morning. James had restructured his business to allow him to work primarily from home, stepping back from the CEO role to focus on what truly mattered: his family. The company was thriving under the new leadership team, and James found he didn't miss the constant travel and late nights at the office. Dr. Natalie Brooks's car pulled into the driveway for Lily's weekly therapy session. Though the frequency of these visits had decreased, Lily still benefited from the gentle guidance that helped her process her trauma. "Dr. Brooks is here," James called out. Lily looked up from the sandcastle she was building with Noah. Can I show her my new pictures? I drew our family tree for school. Of course you can, sweetheart. James smiled. Lily's artwork had evolved from the dark, frightening images of the past to bright, hopeful depictions of their new life. As Natalie approached, James greeted her warmly. How are you? I should be asking you that, she replied with a smile. You're the one who had the meeting with the prosecutor yesterday. James nodded, his expression turning serious. All four sisters have now been charged in Elizabeth's death. The DNA evidence from the exhumation was conclusive traces of digitalis match samples found in Sarah's possession. That must bring some closure, Natalie said quietly. It does and it doesn't. James watched Lily showing Noah how to shape the sand into towers. Loving will bring Elizabeth back, but at least now Lily knows that people believe her, that what she saw really happened. And Daniel testifying against the sisters in exchange for a reduced sentence. James's feelings about his brother remained complicated. Daniel had written numerous letters of apology from prison, attending therapy and addiction treatment. James had finally answered one letter last month, not with forgiveness, but with acknowledgement of Daniel's efforts to change. The DA think the courthouse stood tall against the winter sky, its stone facade now familiar to James after months of legal proceedings. Today marked the final hearing in what the press had dubbed the Mitchell sisters case, a twisted saga of identity theft, fraud, and murder that had captivated the nation for the past 6 months. James adjusted his tie as he exited the car, snow crunching beneath his shoes. The brutal winter that had enveloped his family's nightmare was finally giving way to the first tentative signs of spring, mirroring the journey from darkness to light they had undertaken. Ready? Jonathan asked, falling into step beside him. As I'll ever be, James replied, his breath visible in the cold morning air. The children were safe at home with Eleanor and their security team. James had spared them this final chapter, wanting to shield them from the courtroom's harsh realities. Lily had made remarkable progress in therapy with Dr. Brooks, and James was determined to protect the fragile peace she had found. Inside the courtroom, James took his seat beside the prosecutor, Sarah Chen, a formidable attorney whose relentless pursuit of justice had helped build an ironclad case against the Mitchell sisters and their accomplices. Today should be straightforward, Chen whispered. Rebecca's testimony has been thoroughly vetted. She's naming everyone. James nodded, his eyes drawn to the defendant's table where Rebecca Mitchell sat beside her attorney. Following Sarah's suicide 3 months earlier, a final act of control where she had hoarded medication in her cell and left behind only a chilling note reading, "Family endures always." Rebecca had become the key to unraveling the sisters' entire criminal enterprise. Her decision to cooperate had not come from remorse, James suspected, but from self-preservation and the bitter realization that her sister had abandoned her through death. The remaining 2 Mitchell sisters, Vanessa and Jessica, were being tried separately, their cases complicated by their involvement in crimes across multiple states. But today's hearing focused on Rebecca's testimony against the network she and her sisters had built. Judge Harrison entered and the courtroom rose. After the formal proceedings began, Rebecca Mitchell was called to the stand. She looked smaller than James remembered, the prison uniform hanging loose on her frame. Her resemblance to Sarah still striking, but somehow diminished without her sister's dominating presence. Ms. Mitchell, the prosecutor began, you've agreed to testify about the full extent of your family's criminal enterprise in exchange for considerations in your sentencing. Is that correct? Yes, Rebecca answered, her voice flat. Please describe for the court how your operation typically worked. Rebecca leaned forward slightly. We targeted wealthy families experiencing some form of vulnerability, usually illness or death. One of us would infiltrate the family through a personal connection, gaining trust and access. And how were targets selected? We looked for specific profiles, significant assets, complex family dynamics, and what we called an exploitable gap, usually an emotionally distant spouse or parent who could be manipulated. She glanced briefly at James. The Carter family fit our criteria perfectly. James felt a chill at the clinical description of how his family had been selected for destruction. The thought that Elizabeth's death and his children's suffering had been the result of such calculated targeting made his stomach turn. Who selected the Carter family? The prosecutor asked. Sarah did. She'd been tracking them since Daniel Carter first mentioned his brother 3 years earlier. Rebecca's expression remained neutral. Daniel was initially just an information source, but his gambling debts made him susceptible to recruitment. When did Elizabeth Carter become a specific target? When she became pregnant with their second child. Sarah saw it as the perfect opportunity. A complicated pregnancy, a busy executive husband, a vulnerable household. Rebecca paused. Sarah always preferred situations where natural death was plausible. The courtroom was silent as the full horror of their methodology became clear. James gripped the edge of the bench, forcing himself to remain composed. Please explain to the court how Elizabeth Carter was poisoned. Rebecca described in chilling detail how Sarah had systematically administered small doses of digitalis in Elizabeth's tea over several months, carefully monitoring her deteriorating health while positioning herself as the devoted friend. The calculated nature of the murder carried out in plain sight within the family home left the courtroom stunned. And the children, why target them after Elizabeth's death? That wasn't the original plan, Rebecca explained. Sarah was supposed to marry James after a suitable mourning period. When that didn't happen quickly enough, the contingency plan was implemented. Create a situation where James would appear to have harmed his children and then himself in grief-induced madness. And as Rebecca continued to detail their network of accomplices, corrupt medical professionals, identity forgers, financial enablers, James found himself strangely detached, as if watching a film about someone else's tragedy. Perhaps it was self-preservation, or perhaps it was simply that the facts, however horrific, could no longer touch the core of what mattered. His children were safe and justice was being served. The testimony continued for hours, with Rebecca naming names, detailing other victims, and exposing the full extent of their criminal enterprise. By the time the court recessed for lunch, James felt emotionally drained, but strangely lighter, as if a burden he hadn't fully acknowledged was being lifted from his shoulders. Jonathan joined him in a private consultation room. She's giving them everything, James. This testimony will put dozens of people behind bars. Will it be enough to ensure they never get out? James asked the question that had haunted him for months. Rebecca's looking at 25 to life, even with the plea deal. Vanessa and Jessica will almost certainly get life without parole given their direct involvement in multiple murders. Their accomplices are facing substantial sentences as well. Jonathan placed a hand on James's shoulder. It's over, James, truly over. What about Daniel? Jonathan hesitated. His sentencing is next week. Given his cooperation and the fact that he ultimately helped save Lily and Eleanor, the prosecutor is recommending 8 years with possibility of parole after 5. James nodded, his feelings about his brother still complicated. Daniel had betrayed him in the most fundamental way, yet had also in the final moment chosen to help rather than harm. It was a contradiction James still struggled to reconcile. He's asked to see you, Jonathan added carefully. Before the sentencing, he wants to apologize in person. James stared out the window at the courthouse plaza below. Snow was melting as a weak winter sun, creating rivulets of water that carved paths through the remaining ice. Like those small streams gradually reshaping the frozen landscape, time was slowly transforming his anger toward Daniel. Not erasing it, but channeling it into something less destructive. I'll think about it, James said finally. I don't know if I can forgive him, but I might be ready to at least hear what he has to say. That's more than many would offer in your position, Jonathan observed. Elizabeth would be proud of that. The mention of his late wife brought a sad smile to James's face. She always saw the best in people, even in Daniel, despite his flaws. He paused. Maybe honoring that part of her is a way to keep her alive for Lily and Noah. After lunch, the testimony continued, with Rebecca detailing the financial aspects of their operation, how they had laundered money through shell companies, hidden assets offshore, and maintained multiple identities across various jurisdictions. The total estimated value of assets acquired through your criminal activities, the prosecutor asked. Approximately $27 million across 13 families. Rebecca answered, the staggering figure eliciting gasps from the gallery. As the day wore on, James's thoughts drifted to his children. Lily would be finishing school now, likely working on her homework at the kitchen table while Eleanor prepared a snack. Noah would be waking from his afternoon nap, babbling his newfound words. The ordinary rhythms of their lives continued, healing slowly but surely. When court finally adjourned for the day, James stepped outside into the late afternoon sunlight. The air was cold but clear, the sky a brilliant blue above the city skyline. His phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor. Children fine. Lily made an A on her spelling test. Noah said book today. James smiled at the simple update, these small victories more meaningful to him now than any business success had ever been. He was about to reply when Detective Rodriguez approached, his expression grave. James, we need to talk. Something in the detective's tone sent a chill through James. They walked to a quiet corner away from the courthouse steps. What is it? We've been monitoring communications from Jessica Mitchell's contacts. There's been chatter about a final contingency plan, something the sisters put in place in case all else failed. Rodriguez paused. We think there may be one more operative we haven't identified, someone tasked with carrying out a last act of revenge, if the sisters were ever fully exposed. Revenge against whom? James asked, though he already knew the answer. Your family, specifically Lily, as she was the key witness who brought down their operation. James felt his blood run cold. My security team has already been alerted, Rodriguez assured him. We've increased patrols around your neighborhood, and I've assigned 2 plainclothes officers to shadow Lily at school. But I wanted to warn you personally. Do you have any leads on who this person might be? Nothing concrete yet, but we're following every possible connection. The most likely candidates are people with long-term ties to the sisters who aren't part of the official investigation. James's mind raced. How serious do you think the threat is? Rodriguez's expression was somber. Serious enough that I wouldn't take any chances. The Mitchell sisters have proven they play the long game. This could be nothing, or it could be their final move. I need to get home, James said, already moving toward his car. I'll follow you, Rodriguez replied. And James, don't alarm the children, but don't let your guard down either. The drive home was a blur of anxiety, James's knuckles white on the steering wheel. He had believed they were finally safe, that Sarah's death and Rebecca's testimony had closed this terrible chapter in their lives. The thought that danger might still be lurking, waiting to strike at his children, was almost unbearable. As he pulled into the driveway of their suburban home, everything appeared normal. The security guard at the gate nodded respectfully as he passed. The house looked peaceful, warm lights glowing from within against the gathering dusk. James found Lily at the kitchen table as he had imagined, pencil in hand, as she worked on her homework. Eleanor was preparing dinner, the familiar scent of roasting chicken filling the air. Noah sat in his high chair, happily examining a picture book. Daddy, Lily looked up with a smile. You're home early. Court finished sooner than expected. James lied, smoothly leaning down to kiss the top of her head. How was school? As Lily chattered about her day, the spelling test recess with her friends, the science project on butterflies, James conducted a subtle survey of the house. The security panel showed all systems normal, no perimeter breaches, all cameras functioning. Rodriguez texted, all clear outside, officers in position. James felt marginally better, but still couldn't shake the sense of impending danger. He helped Lily finish her homework, then played with Noah on the living room floor, all while maintaining a hypervigilance that left him exhausted. After the children were bathed and in pajamas, James sat on Lily's bed for their nightly reading ritual. Noah was already asleep in his crib, in the adjacent room, visible through the half-open connecting door. Can we read The Secret Garden tonight? Lily asked, retrieving the book from her nightstand. Of course, sweetheart. James settled beside her, the familiar weight of his daughter leaning against him, a comfort amidst his anxiety. They read together, Lily occasionally stopping to ask questions or comment on the story. James tried to focus solely on this precious moment, pushing away thoughts of hidden threats and final contingencies. Daddy, Lily asked, suddenly closing the book, are you worried about something? James hesitated. He had promised himself never to lie to his children, yet he didn't want to frighten Lily with vague threats that might never materialize. Just thinking about work, he said finally. Nothing important. Lily studied his face with a perceptiveness that sometimes startled him. Is it about the bad ladies I heard you talking on the phone? James sighed. Lily had developed a keen awareness of danger during her ordeal with Sarah, a sensitivity to shifts in mood and tone that other children her age typically lacked. The police think there might still be some loose ends to tie up, he explained carefully. Nothing to worry about, but we should be a little extra careful for a while. Like when we first moved here, Lily asked. Something like that, just until we're sure everything is settled. Lily nodded solemnly. I'll keep Mr. Cuddles on special alert. She hugged her teddy bear close. Though the hidden camera had long been removed, the bear remained Lily's symbol of protection and courage. That's a good plan. James smiled, tucking the covers around her. Try to sleep now, sweetheart. School tomorrow. Cross your heart, Lily asked their nightly ritual. Cross my heart, James replied, making the gesture over his chest. It was their promise that he would always be there, always protect her, never leave her vulnerable again. After Lily fell asleep, James sat in his home office reviewing the security measures Jonathan had helped him implement. The house was a fortress: motion sensors, bulletproof windows, panic rooms, direct lines to police dispatch. Every staff member had undergone extensive background checks. The children were never alone. Even at school, Lily was discreetly monitored by security personnel, posing as assistant teachers or administrative staff. James had created layers of protection around his family, yet Rodriguez's warning had shaken his confidence. The Mitchell sisters had proven remarkably adept at infiltrating seemingly secure environments, at exploiting the smallest vulnerabilities. His phone rang. Jonathan. Rebecca provided more names today after you left, his attorney reported, including someone who matches the profile Rodriguez is concerned about. Megan Walsh, a cousin who was raised with the sisters after their parents died. She wasn't part of their core operation, but apparently served as a contingency planner. Do they have a location on her? Not yet. She hasn't used any known aliases or credit cards in months. The FBI is involved now, treating this as a credible threat. James rubbed his temples. What do they recommend? Temporary relocation to a secure location until Walsh is located. Lily just started feeling settled here, James protested. I can't uproot her again without concrete evidence of danger. I understand, Jonathan said, but consider it as a precaution. Perhaps frame it as a vacation a week at that lakeside property you mentioned buying. James considered this. The lake house he had recently purchased was remote but secure, with advanced security systems and limited access points. It could serve as both a genuine getaway for the children and a strategic retreat. I'll think about it, he promised. In the meantime, can you send me everything they have on Walsh photo background, known associates? Already on its way to your secure email. After hanging up, James opened his laptop to review the file. Megan Walsh was 42, with a background in nursing and pharmaceutical research skills that aligned disturbingly well with the sisters' methodology. Her photograph showed a plain-faced woman with brown hair and unremarkable features, the kind of person who could blend into any crowd. What troubled James most was her employment history. She had worked at several hospitals in cities where the sisters had operated, including the very hospital where Elizabeth had given birth to Noah and subsequently died. The possibility that Walsh had been involved in Elizabeth's death, perhaps ensuring the digitalis poisoning went undetected, sent a wave of nausea through him. A soft knock at his office door startled him. Eleanor stood there, her expression concerned. Mr. Carter, there's someone at the gate claiming to be from the school. Says she has Lily's project that was left behind. James immediately tensed. Did she give a name? Margaret Wells. She says she's the new assistant in the front office. James pulled up the school staff directory on his computer. No Margaret Wells was listed. Don't let her in, he said sharply. Call Rodriguez immediately. Eleanor nodded and hurried away while James activated the security system's lockdown protocol from his desk. Steel shutters silently descended over the windows and doors, and alerts were automatically sent to the security team and police. James moved quickly to the children's rooms, heart pounding. Lily and Noah were still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the potential threat. He gently lifted Noah from his crib, then woke Lily with a hand on her shoulder. Sweetheart, we need to go to the safe room now, he whispered. Lily blinked sleepily, but didn't question him, automatically reaching for Mr. Cuddles before taking his hand. James led them to the master bedroom closet, where a hidden door opened to a reinforced room equipped with supplies, communications equipment, and monitoring systems. Wait here with Eleanor, he told them once they were safely inside. I need to check something. Daddy, no. Lily's eyes widened with fear. Don't leave us. I'll be right back, sweetheart. The house is locked down and the police are on their way. I just need to make sure everything is secure. He kissed her forehead. Eleanor will stay with you. I promise I'll be careful. Reluctantly, Lily nodded. James closed the safe room door, ensuring it was securely locked before moving cautiously through the darkened house. The security monitors showed a woman retreating from the gate, disappearing into a car parked down the street. Rodriguez called. We've got units responding. Stay inside. There was a woman at the gate claiming to be from the school, James reported. She's left now, but description, brown hair, average height, security camera footage is being uploaded now. We'll intercept if possible. Don't open the house for anyone but uniformed officers and verify their credentials. James agreed and continued his systematic check of the perimeter via the security monitors. Everything appeared secure, but a nagging sense of unease persisted. If this woman was indeed Megan Walsh, the Mitchell sisters' final operative, what was her actual plan? A frontal approach seemed unlikely given their typically more subtle methodology. A sudden thought struck him. James hurried to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. He examined the food containers, looking for anything that might have been tampered with. Nothing seemed out of place, but he couldn't be certain. But he checked the medicine cabinet, the water filters, even the air vents. 20 minutes later, Rodriguez arrived with several officers. After verifying their identities, James allowed them entry. "We missed her," Rodriguez reported grimly, "but we got a partial plate and a good image from your security cameras. Facial recognition confirms it's Megan Walsh." "So she knows where we live," James said, the implications clear. "She made no real attempt to gain entry. This was reconnaissance." "Most likely. We'll maintain a perimeter around the property, but I strongly recommend you consider temporary relocation. If she's planning something, it might not be a direct assault." James nodded. "The lake house. We can leave first thing in the morning." After Rodriguez departed, leaving 2 officers stationed outside, James returned to the safe room. Lily was curled up asleep on the small cot, Noah beside her in a portable crib. Eleanor sat in a chair nearby, knitting needles, moving steadily as she maintained her vigil. "It's safe now," James told her quietly. "But we're going to the lake house tomorrow. Pack only essentials for yourself and the children." Eleanor nodded, her weathered face showing no surprise at the sudden change of plans. "Will this never end, Mr. Carter?" "It will," James assured her, though uncertainty lingered in his heart. "One way or another, it will end soon." Dawn broke clear and cold as James loaded the last of their bags into the SUV. The children were still in pajamas, Lily clutching Mr. Cuddles as she climbed into her car seat. Noah babbled happily, unaware of the tension surrounding their hasty departure. "We'll follow in the second vehicle," Rodriguez informed James, gesturing to the unmarked police car where his partner waited. "I've arranged for additional officers to meet us at the lake house." "Thank you," James said, genuine gratitude in his voice, "for everything." The drive to the lake house took nearly 3 hours, winding through increasingly remote countryside as they left the city behind. Snow still lingered in shadowed patches beneath the trees, though the roads were clear. Lily gazed out the window, unusually quiet, while Noah eventually dozed in his car seat. "Are we going on vacation, Daddy?" Lily asked finally. "Something like that," James answered. "I thought we could all use a change of scenery for a few days." Because of the lady at our gate, James sometimes forgot how perceptive his daughter had become. "Yes, partly. Just a precaution, nothing to worry about." Lily seemed to accept this explanation, turning her attention back to the passing landscape. "I like the lake. It's peaceful there." The lake house came into view as they rounded the final curve in the road, a modern structure of glass and stone perched on the shoreline, surrounded by tall pines. Unlike Daniel's rustic cabin, where Lily and Eleanor had been held captive, this property was open and airy, designed to embrace rather than hide from its surroundings. James had purchased it specifically because it bore no resemblance to the site of their trauma, hoping it could become a place of healing and new memories for his family. As they pulled into the driveway, Rodriguez's vehicle close behind James conducted a visual sweep of the property. Everything appeared normal. No unexpected vehicles, no signs of disturbance. "Stay in the car until I check inside," he instructed Eleanor, who nodded in understanding. James and Rodriguez approached the house cautiously, the detective's hand resting on his weapon. The security system showed no breaches, and the interior was exactly as James had left it during his last visit 2 weeks earlier. "All clear," Rodriguez confirmed after a thorough room-by-room inspection. "I'll have officers positioned around the perimeter. The boat dock and lake access are the most vulnerable points." James nodded, finally allowing himself to relax slightly. "Let's get the children settled." The next few hours passed in a blur of unpacking and organization. Lily explored the house excitedly, particularly drawn to the wall of windows overlooking the lake, where thin ice still clung to the shoreline. Noah crawled enthusiastically across the plush rug in the great room, delighted by the new environment. By evening, a semblance of normalcy had been established. James prepared dinner while Eleanor set the table, and Rodriguez's team maintained a discreet presence outside. "Can we go down to the lake tomorrow, Daddy?" Lily asked as they ate. "I want to see if the ducks are back yet." "We'll see," James replied noncommittal. "It's still quite cold." After dinner, James received a call from Jonathan. The FBI interviewed a former colleague of Walsh's, his attorney reported. They believe she's been stockpiling pharmaceutical-grade chemicals, possibly including digitalis or similar compounds. "So she's planning to continue Sarah's work," James said grimly. "Poisoning as the method of choice." "It appears so. They're monitoring pharmacies and chemical supply companies, but she likely already has what she needs." "Which means we're looking for a method of delivery," James concluded. "Food, water, something environmental." "Exactly. Don't consume anything that hasn't been thoroughly vetted. The FBI is sending a specialist to help sweep the lake house." After hanging up, James implemented even stricter protocols: bottled water, only no locally sourced food, no opening windows. The lake house, intended as a retreat, had become another fortress. Night fell, bringing a profound darkness unique to rural settings. James tucked the children into bed. In the room, they would share a nightlight casting star-shaped patterns across the ceiling. "Daddy, when will we go home?" Lily asked as he smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "Soon, sweetheart, when everything is settled." "Is it the bad ladies again?" Her voice was small but not fearful, simply inquiring. James hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Someone connected to them might still want to cause trouble, but the police are taking care of it. That's why we're here, to give them time to make sure everything is safe." Lily nodded, accepting his explanation. "Mr. Cuddles says we'll be okay." She hugged the teddy bear close. "He says you won't let anything bad happen to us again." "Mr. Cuddles is very wise," James said, his throat tight with emotion. "And he's absolutely right." After the children fell asleep, James sat on the deck overlooking the lake, a glass of whiskey in hand. The night was clear and cold, stars reflected in the dark water below. Rodriguez joined him, declining the offered drink. "We've established a full perimeter," the detective reported. "Motion sensors, infrared cameras, the works. Nothing gets within 100 yards of this place without us knowing." "And yet I can't shake this feeling," James admitted, "like we're missing something obvious." "It's natural after what you've been through. Hypervigilance becomes the default state." Rodriguez settled into the adjacent chair. "But we're ahead of her this time. Walsh doesn't have the resources her cousins did, and we know she's coming." "Unless she's already here," James said softly. "Unless whatever she's planning is already in motion." The thought haunted him through a restless night, leading him to check on the children repeatedly. They slept peacefully, Noah occasionally sighing in his sleep, Lily curled protectively around Mr. Cuddles. Morning brought a fresh challenge when Rodriguez reported that one of the perimeter sensors had been triggered briefly before resetting. "Could be wildlife," the detective acknowledged. "But we're not taking chances. I've called in the specialist to sweep the property again." The FBI specialist arrived mid-morning, a serious woman named Agent Carter. No relation, she assured James, with expertise in chemical and biological threats. She methodically tested the water system, air handling equipment, and food supplies, finding nothing suspicious. "If she's planning a poisoning attempt, she hasn't implemented it yet," Agent Carter concluded. "But that doesn't mean she won't trip." The day passed tensely, with James keeping the children occupied indoors, despite Lily's repeated requests to explore outside. By afternoon, her patience was wearing thin. "But why can't we go down to the lake?" she protested. "Just for a little while, please." "Not today, sweetheart," James said firmly. "It's still too cold." "But I'm wearing my warm coat," Lily argued reasonably, pointing to the parka she had purposefully put on. "And my boots and my mittens." James was about to refuse again when Rodriguez approached with news. "We've spotted movement in the woods on the north side," he reported quietly. "Could be nothing, but I've sent a team to investigate." While they were speaking, Lily had wandered toward the glass doors leading to the deck, pressing her face against the pane to see the lake. "Daddy, look," she called suddenly. "There's a lady down by the water." James and Rodriguez rushed to the window. Sure enough, a figure stood at the lake's edge, partially obscured by trees, but clearly feminine in form. She appeared to be scattering something into the water. "Lock this door," Rodriguez commanded, already moving toward the side exit, radio in hand. "Don't let anyone in or out." James pulled Lily away from the window, heart pounding. Go to Eleanor into the kitchen, he instructed. Stay there until I come get you. But Daddy, now Lily, this isn't a discussion. Recognizing his serious tone, Lily obeyed, though not without a backward glance of concern. James moved to the security panel, activating the outdoor cameras to track the woman's movements. She had disappeared from the shoreline, but a different camera caught her moving through the trees toward the boat dock. Her face became briefly visible. It was indeed Megan Walsh, her expression determined as she pulled something from her pocket. Rodriguez and his team were converging on her position from multiple angles, moving silently through the woods. James watched tensely as they closed in. Then suddenly Walsh looked up, seemingly alerted to their presence. She turned and ran toward a small rowboat tied at the dock. The officers broke cover, shouting commands for her to stop. Walsh ignored them, leaping into the boat and frantically working to untie it. As Rodriguez reached the dock, she finally looked up, her face contorted with a hatred so intense it was visible even through the grainy camera feed. What happened next occurred with shocking speed. Walsh reached into her jacket and withdrew not a weapon but a small vial. Before anyone could react, she uncapped it and drank the contents in one swift motion. By the time Rodriguez reached her, she was already convulsing the empty vial rolling across the bottom of the boat. James watched in horror as the officers attempted CPR, but even through the security monitor he could tell it was futile to help him. Whatever poison Walsh had consumed, likely digitalis and terrible irony, had been fast-acting and deliberately fatal. The commotion drew Eleanor and Lily to the windows, despite James's instructions to stay in the kitchen. "What's happening, Daddy?" Lily asked, her voice small. James quickly moved to block her view. "Nothing for you to worry about, sweetheart. The police are just checking something by the lake." Eleanor, however, had seen enough to understand. Her face paled as she gently guided Lily back toward the kitchen. "Come help me with lunch, dear. Your father will explain everything later." An hour passed before Rodriguez returned to the house, his expression grim. "She's dead," he confirmed quietly. "Self-administered digitalis overdose, according to the preliminary assessment. We found her car hidden about a half-mile away, filled with various chemicals and detailed plans of your property." "What was she doing at the lake?" James asked. "Spreading some kind of compound in the water." "We're testing it now, but initial indications suggest it's highly toxic, designed to be absorbed through skin contact." The implication was clear. Walsh had been preparing a trap, knowing Lily's fondness for visiting the lake's edge to look for ducks and other wildlife. "She was targeting Lily specifically," James said, cold horror washing over him. "Not me, not Noah. Lily. The ultimate revenge in Sarah's eyes," Rodriguez agreed solemnly. "Taking from you what you took from her, the person you love most." James felt physically ill at the thought of how close they had come to disaster. If Lily had gone to the lake as she'd wanted to, if they hadn't spotted Walsh in time. "We found this in her car," Rodriguez added, holding up a sealed evidence bag containing a notebook. "It appears to be instructions from Sarah Mitchell written before her death. Contingency plans for various scenarios, all centered around one goal: ensuring Lily paid the ultimate price for her testimony." "Is it over now?" James asked the question he had asked so many times before, always receiving qualified answers. This time Rodriguez nodded with certainty. "It's over. Walsh was the final piece of their network, the last contingency. With her death, the Mitchell sisters' reach has truly ended." The next few hours were a blur of activity as forensic teams processed the scene and secured evidence. James kept the children occupied indoors, deflecting Lily's questions with promises to explain everything later. By evening, most of the law enforcement personnel had departed, leaving only Rodriguez and two officers maintaining a precautionary presence overnight. "We'll clear you to return home tomorrow," Rodriguez told James, "though I'd recommend a thorough security sweep of your house first, just to be certain." James nodded gratefully. "Thank you for everything, Detective. I don't know how we can ever repay you." "No repayment necessary," Rodriguez replied with a small smile. "Seeing your family safe is enough." After putting the children to bed, James sat alone on the deck, looking out over the now peaceful lake. The stars were emerging in the clear night sky, reflected perfectly in the still water below. It was hard to believe that just hours ago, this tranquil scene had been the setting for the final act in the Mitchell sisters' twisted drama. His phone rang. Jonathan. "I heard what happened," his attorney said without preamble. "Are you all right?" "We're fine," James assured him, a little shaken but unharmed. Rodriguez filled me in on the details. It's almost unbelievable the level of planning, the single-minded focus on revenge. Not revenge, James corrected quietly. Justice in their minds. That's what makes it so disturbing. They truly believed they were the wrong parties, that they were entitled to take what wasn't theirs. A warped perspective born from warped circumstances, Jonathan observed. The foster system failed those girls, but it didn't create monsters. They chose that path. Speaking of choices, James said after a moment, I've decided to visit Daniel before his sentencing. There was a brief silence on the line, so, are you sure? No, James admitted, but Elizabeth would have wanted me to at least hear him out. And Lily asked me something last week that I can't stop thinking about. What was that? She asked if being angry at Uncle Danny forever would make Mommy happy. Jonathan chuckled softly. From the mouths of babes. Exactly. I may never forgive him completely, but I think I need to at least try to understand. For Lily and Noah's sake, if nothing else. They should know that people can make terrible mistakes and still have a chance at redemption. That's a powerful lesson, Jonathan agreed, and a brave decision. They spoke for a few more minutes about practical matters, the final court proceedings against the remaining sisters, the disposition of recovered assets, the ongoing therapy for Lily, and eventual therapy for Noah when he was older. After hanging up, James remained on the deck, contemplating the journey that had brought them to this point. From the night he had received that terrible call from the hospital through the discoveries of betrayal and murder, to this final confrontation with the evil that had targeted his family, it had been a path of unimaginable pain, but also of redemption. He had failed Elizabeth and his children once through his absence and neglect. That failure had created the vulnerability the Mitchell sisters had exploited so mercilessly. But in confronting that failure and fighting to protect what remained of his family, James had found a strength and purpose he hadn't known he possessed. A soft sound behind him drew his attention. Lily stood in the doorway, Mr. Cuddles clutched to her chest. I couldn't sleep, she explained. Can I sit with you? Of course, sweetheart. James opened his arms and Lily climbed onto his lap, snuggling against his chest. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, looking at the stars. The bad lady is gone now, isn't she? Lily asked finally. The one by the lake today. James shouldn't have been surprised by her perceptiveness. Yes, she's gone, and she can't hurt anyone anymore. Like Sarah? Like Sarah, James confirmed. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing this. Is that why we came here? Because you knew she was trying to hurt us? I suspected someone might try, James answered honestly. But yes, that's why we came, to keep you and Noah safe while the police caught her. And now we can go home. Yes, sweetheart, we can go home tomorrow. Lily sighed contentedly, leaning her head against his shoulder. Good, I miss my room, and school, and my friends. The simple normalcy of her concerns warmed James's heart. Despite everything she had endured, Lily was still a child, resilient, adaptable, and fundamentally hopeful. Daddy? She asked after another comfortable silence. Yes. Do you think Mommy knows we're okay now? James felt his throat tighten with emotion. I think she does, sweetheart. I think she's been watching over us all along. I think so too, Lily agreed solemnly. Sometimes I can feel her like when I'm scared or sad. She feels like a warm hug all around me. James held his daughter closer, marveling at her wisdom and sensitivity. That sounds exactly like your mother. Mr. Cuddles says we should make a special day for Mommy, Lily continued, a day to remember her and do things she liked to do. That's a wonderful idea, James said. What would you want to do on this special day? Bake apple pie, Lily said immediately, and plant flowers in the garden, and maybe look at pictures of her and tell Noah stories about her so he knows who she was. I think that sounds perfect. James agreed, his voice thick with unshed tears. We'll do exactly that. Lily yawned and her eyelids growing heavy. Can we do it soon? Very soon, James promised. Maybe this weekend. Satisfied with this plan, Lily drifted towards sleep in her father's arms, secure in the knowledge that the dangers which had shadowed their lives for so long had finally passed. James sat holding his daughter, watching the stars reflected in the lake below. For the first time in nearly a year, he felt a profound peace settle over him. The Mitchell sisters had taken Elizabeth from them, had tried to destroy what remained of his family, but in the end they had failed. Love had proven stronger than their hatred, truth stronger than their lies. The small sleeping child in his arms was testament to that Lily had endured horrors no child should face, yet emerged with her capacity for joy and trust intact. Morning dawned clear in bright sunlight, dancing across the lake's surface. James packed the car while the children ate breakfast, eager to return home and resume their lives without the shadow of fear that had hung over them for so long. As they prepared to depart, Lily ran down to the deck for one last look at the lake. "Goodbye, lake," she called, waving. "We'll come back when it's warmer and I can go swimming." Her simple optimism, her unquestioning belief that they would return under happier circumstances, filled James with hope. Whatever darkness had touched their lives, it had not extinguished the light within his daughter. The drive home was filled with Noah's babbling and Lily's cheerful chatter about returning to school, seeing her friends, and planning Elizabeth's special Remembrance Day. Eleanor dozed in the passenger seat, the strain of recent events evident in the new lines on her weathered face. Rodriguez followed in his vehicle, a final protective escort, though the threat had passed. They would maintain a security presence at the house for another week, he had explained, just as a precaution. But James knew it was more formality than necessity now. As they approached their neighborhood, James felt a curious lightening of his spirit. The house that had once been a place of trauma and betrayal had over the past months transformed into a true home, a sanctuary of healing and new beginnings. They pulled into the driveway and James helped the children from their car seats. Lily immediately ran to examine her flower bed, checking whether the bulbs she had planted weeks earlier showed any signs of growth. "Look, Daddy," she called excitedly. "The little green shoots are coming up. Spring is really coming." "Yes, it is," James agreed, lifting Noah from his car seat. "Spring is definitely coming." 3 days later, on a Saturday morning, the house bustled with activity. In the kitchen, Lily stood on a step stool beside Eleanor, carefully measuring flour for an apple pie. Noah watched from his high chair, occasionally banging a wooden spoon against the tray in rhythm with their movements. "Mommy likes cinnamon in her apple pie," Lily instructed Eleanor seriously. "Lots of it." "Indeed she did," Eleanor confirmed with a smile. "Your mother always said there was no such thing as too much cinnamon." In the living room, James was arranging framed photographs of Elizabeth on a table. There were pictures of her laughing on their wedding day, cradling newborn Lily, reading in her favorite garden chair, and painting at the lake, all moments of a life filled with joy and love. "Is everything ready?" Lily asked, appearing at his elbow, her hands dusted with flour. "Almost," James replied. "I think we need some flowers, don't you?" Lily nodded emphatically. Yellow ones were her favorite, and later that afternoon the family gathered in the garden. James had helped Lily plant yellow daffodil bulbs along the border of Elizabeth's favorite flower bed. Now they stood together, admiring their work, while Noah watched from the blanket spread on the grass. "They'll bloom in a few weeks," James explained, "and every spring they'll come back to remind us of your mother." "Like she's visiting us," Lily said softly. "Exactly like that." They returned inside for the apple pie, which had turned out remarkably well despite Lily's heavy hand with the cinnamon. As they ate, James showed Noah photographs of Elizabeth, while Lily told stories about her mother, some remembered, some created from the tales James and Eleanor had shared. "And Mommy used to sing this song when I couldn't sleep." Lily demonstrated humming a lullaby that Elizabeth had indeed sung countless times. To James's amazement, Noah seemed to respond to the melody, his eyes widening as he listened to his sister sing. Perhaps some memories were deeper than conscious thought, embedded in the heart rather than the mind. As evening fell, they released a single paper lantern into the sky, a tradition Elizabeth had admired during their travels in Asia. They stood in the backyard watching the glowing light rise higher and higher until it was just another star in the darkening sky. "I think she would have liked to at Tabua today," Lily said, slipping her hand into James's. "I think she would have loved it," James replied, squeezing his daughter's hand gently. "And I think she would be so proud of you, Lily. So proud of how brave and kind and strong you are." Lily leaned against him. "And proud of you too, Daddy, for keeping us safe." James smiled down at his daughter, this remarkable child who had survived so much, yet retained her capacity for joy and trust. He thought of the journey they had made together through the darkest of times and of the future that now stretched before them, a future free from the shadows of the past. Later that evening, after the children were asleep, James sat in the living room looking at the photographs of Elizabeth. He held her silver pocket watch in his palm, the inscription catching the lamplight. "To Elizabeth, my North Star, love always, James." She had been his guide, his moral compass. And though she was gone, her light remained in their children, in Lily's courage and compassion, in Noah's curious spirit. "We're going to be all right, Elizabeth," he whispered. "I promise you that." And for the first time since losing her, James truly believed it. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect early spring day. James woke to the sounds of children's laughter and the smell of coffee brewing. Normal sounds, safe sounds, the sounds of a family finding its way forward. In the kitchen, Eleanor was teaching Lily how to make pancakes in the shape of teddy bears, while Noah sat in his high chair, more interested in wearing his breakfast than eating it. "Look, Daddy," Lily exclaimed as he entered. "This one looks just like Mr. Cuddles." "Very impressive," James said, accepting the coffee Eleanor handed him. "You're becoming quite the chef." "Like Mommy," Lily said, her voice now holding more joy than sadness when speaking of Elizabeth. "Exactly like your mommy," James agreed, ruffling her hair affectionately. After breakfast, as James helped the children prepare for their day school, for Lily, a playgroup for Noah, he found himself filled with an overwhelming gratitude for these simple moments. The ordinary tasks of parenthood, once overlooked in his grief-fueled workaholism, now seemed precious beyond measure. As they walked to the car, Lily reached for his hand, Noah secure in his other arm. "I love you, Daddy," she said simply. "I love you too, sweetheart," James replied. "More than anything in this world." "And Noah," Lily added, reaching up to touch her brother's cheek. "And Noah," James confirmed with a smile. Together they walked toward the waiting car, a family that had been tested by the darkest of circumstances and emerged stronger, their bonds forged in fire and tempered by love. Spring blossoms had begun to appear on the trees lining their street, delicate white and pink petals opening to the warming sun. New life emerging after the long dark winter, nature's own testament to the resilience of living things, to the enduring power of hope. As James secured the children in their car seats, he glanced up at the clear blue sky. Somewhere he liked to believe Elizabeth was watching over them, her love a constant presence even in absence. "We're going to be all right," he whispered to her memory. "I promise you that." And for the first time since losing her, James truly believed it, as he'll serve 5 years with good behavior. "How do you feel about that?" James considered the question carefully. "Part of me wants to hold on to the anger forever, but Lily asked me something last week that I can't stop thinking about." "What was that?" "She asked if being angry at Uncle Danny forever would make Mommy happy." James's voice softened. "Out of the mouths of babes, right? Elizabeth always believed in second chances. Maybe someday I can find a way to honor that part of her." Lily spotted them talking and ran over sand clinging to her shorts. "Does Natalie want to see the special sandcastle we made? It has a moat and everything." "I'd love to see it, Lily." Natalie smiled, allowing herself to be led by the hand. As they walked away, Eleanor joined James on the patio. "Mr. Carter, this came for you today." She handed him an envelope. "It's from the prison." James tensed. All mail was screened now, but anything from the prison where Sarah and her sisters were held still made his heart race. He opened it carefully. Inside was a brief official notice. Sarah Mitchell had been found dead in her cell that morning, apparent suicide. The preliminary investigation suggested she had been planning it for weeks, hoarding medication. A note found in her possession had contained just 3 words: "Family endures always." James felt a complex wave of emotions: relief, disbelief, and a lingering unease. Sarah had been the mastermind, the most dangerous of the sisters. With her gone, perhaps the threat truly was diminishing. "Is everything all right, sir?" Eleanor asked, noting his expression. "Yes," James said, tucking the letter away. "Actually, I think it might be." That evening, after putting the children to bed, James sat on the porch swing, listening to the night sounds of their suburban neighborhood. So different from the isolated mansion they'd left behind with its echoing halls and shadowed corners. Here neighbors checked in on each other. Children rode bikes on sidewalks. Normal life unfolded all around them, healing in its ordinariness. The security system beeped softly as the night shift arrived, a reminder that normal didn't mean unprotected. James had found the balance between vigilance and paranoia, creating a life where his children could feel both safe and free. His phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. "Call me when you can. Important update on Rebecca's case." James was about to call when he heard a soft voice from the doorway. "Daddy, I had a dream." He turned to see Lily in her nightgown, her golden hair tousled from sleep. "A bad one, sweetheart." She shook her head, climbing onto the swing beside him. No, it was about Mommy. She was in our garden planting flowers, and she was smiling. She told me to tell you that we're okay now that we're safe. James felt his throat tighten with emotion. That sounds like a very good dream, Lily. It wasn't scary at all, Lily confirmed, leaning against his side. Doctor, Natalie says dreams like that are healing dreams. They help our hearts feel better. Dr. Natalie is very wise, James said, putting his arm around his daughter's shoulders. They sat together in comfortable silence, the swing moving gently back and forth. After a while, Lily spoke again. Daddy, is it true that the bad lady can't hurt us anymore? I heard you talking to Eleanor. James hesitated, always careful to be truthful with Lily without burdening her. Yes, sweetheart, Sarah is gone now. She can't hurt anyone anymore. Lily nodded, absorbing this. What about the other bad ladies? They're going to stay in prison for a very long time. James squeezed her shoulder gently. And we have people watching over us, keeping us safe. Like guardian angels. James smiled. Something like that. Plus our special security system and Mr. Rodriguez's team. Lily was quiet for a moment, then said with childish certainty, and we have Mr. Cuddles too. He protects us. James looked at the well-worn teddy bear clutched in Lily's arms. The hidden camera had been removed months ago, but Lily still treated the stuffed animal as her special protector. In many ways it was that bear had helped save their lives. Yes, James agreed. We have Mr. Cuddles too. Lily yawned, her eyes growing heavy. I like our new home, Daddy. I don't want to leave. We won't have to leave, James assured her. This is our home now, for as long as we want it to be. Promise, I promised, Vampire. James kissed the top of her head. Cross my heart. As Lily drifted back to sleep against his shoulder, James called Jonathan. What's the update? He asked quietly. Rebecca is talking, Jonathan said. After hearing about Sarah's death, she's decided to cooperate in exchange for protection. She's naming names, James, people who worked with them, financial backers, potential targets. Is this really the end then? James hardly dared to hope. I think it might be, Jonathan replied. The sisters' network is unraveling fast, and Rebecca confirmed something else. Elizabeth wasn't just a random target. She was chosen specifically because of you. Miwei. Because you were the kind of father they never had. The kind who would do anything to protect his family once he realized they were in danger. Sarah believed that if she removed Elizabeth, you would eventually transfer that devotion to her. James looked through the window to where his children slept peacefully. She never understood what real love is. No, Jonathan agreed. She didn't. After ending the call, James remained on the porch swing, contemplating all that had happened. The silver pocket watch that had belonged to Elizabeth, retrieved from Sarah's possessions, now sat on his bedside table, a reminder of what had been lost and what had been saved. James carried Lily back to bed, tucking the covers around her. In the adjacent room, Noah slept peacefully, his small chest rising and falling with each breath. James stood in the doorway between his children's rooms, watching over them. I'll always protect you, he whispered. Always. The next morning dawned bright and clear. James woke to the sounds of children's laughter and the smell of coffee brewing. Normal sounds, safe sounds, the sounds of a family rebuilding. In the kitchen, Eleanor was teaching Lily how to make pancakes while Noah sat in his high chair, happily mashing banana into his mouth and hair. Good morning, James said, accepting the coffee Eleanor handed him. Those pancakes smell amazing. Lily beamed with pride. I'm making them shaped like animals. This one's a bear. See, like Mr. Cuddles. Very impressive, James ruffled her hair. You're becoming quite the chef. Like Mommy, Lily said confidently. Eleanor says Mommy made the best apple pie in the whole world. She certainly did. James met Eleanor's eyes over Lily's head, sharing a moment of appreciation for the child's healing progress. Lily could now speak of Elizabeth with joy rather than only grief or fear. After breakfast, James helped the children get ready for the day. Lily had school, Noah had playgroup, and James had work calls to make from his home office. Ordinary responsibilities, precious in their normality. As James knelt to tie Lily's shoes, she suddenly threw her arms around his neck. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart, James said, holding her close. More than anything in this world. And Noah too. And Noah too, James confirmed with a smile. Lily pulled back, her expression serious beyond her years. And we love you so you don't have to be sad anymore. Okay. James felt his heart swell with emotion. Okay, Lily, I promise. As they walked out to the waiting car, security protocols still in place but less intrusive now, James took his children's hands, Noah on his left, Lily on his right. Together they walked down the path toward the future, a family reclaimed from the shadows stepping bravely into the light.